The moment the hatch cracked open, Captain Ryland Voss realized this whole expedition was a terrible idea. The air on Ganymede smelled like someone had cracked a billion-year-old egg. "Lovely," he muttered, stepping off the shuttle with the kind of enthusiasm reserved for dental appointments and tax audits. "Smells like victory," snorted Kira, his second-in-command, as she followed him down the ramp. Her sarcasm hung in the air thicker than the stench. Or maybe just bad takeout. The rest of the team tumbled out, all 6 of them, an assortment of cynics and thrill-seekers who thought poking around alien ruins was a good career move. Voss wasn't convinced any of them knew what they were doing. Then again, he wasn't sure he knew either. Ahead lay the labyrinthine ruins of Ganymede, a sprawling mess of stone and mystery that seemed to defy logic and gravity. One tower arched skyward like it had aspirations of joining a ballet company. Another leaned so precariously it seemed to be whispering conspiracies to its neighbor. Voss scratched at his chin, his helmet offering a reflective view of the chaos. "Anyone else feel like we're about to become the punchline in a cosmic joke?" "Hey, I'm just here for the treasure," piped up Marcus, lugging a pack that seemed to contain half the known universe. His grin was as wide as his naivety. "You know, alien artifacts, unbeatable technology. The usual," Kira snorted. "Right. Because the last time someone said unbeatable technology, it ended well for them." She adjusted her blaster, the weapon a comforting weight against her hip. They trudged on, the ground beneath a crunchy mix of unknown minerals and broken dreams. The ruins seemed to hum with latent energy, like an ancient engine waiting to roar back to life, or explode in their faces. "Captain," called out Sasha, the team's overqualified scientist and underappreciated voice of reason. "You might want to see this." Sasha stood by what looked like a stone altar, except it was pulsating with an eerie glow. Voss squinted at the symbols etched into its face, a jumbled mess of lines and spirals that made his brain itch. "Well, that's comforting," Voss said, not feeling remotely comforted. "According to my readings," Sasha continued, waving a device that looked like it could double as a toaster, "this structure shouldn't exist, not according to the laws of physics as we understand them." "Great," Voss replied. "Add that to the list of things that don't make sense, right below the popularity of pineapple on pizza." Kira chuckled. "What's the worst that could happen? We poke something we shouldn't and the universe implodes." "Bite your tongue," Marcus replied, though he was already inching closer to the altar with all the caution of a kid near an electric fence. Meanwhile, light years away, the Zalker convened in what they liked to call a meeting of minds. To an outsider, it looked more like a support group for recovering philosophers. They'd gathered in a chamber that glowed with a cold, indifferent light, a stark contrast to the warmth of human curiosity. "The humans," one Zalker began, its voice a melodic hum, "they move through the ruins as if they belong." "As if they own the place," added another, its tone dripping with disdain. "Their presence defies logic. If they find the nexus," the first continued, its words heavy with implication, "they could unravel what they do not understand." "An admirable trait of theirs," the second mused. "Ignorance has never stopped them before." Back on Ganymede, Voss and his team had wandered deeper into the maze of stone and shadows. The air felt heavier, like it was sitting on their chests, each breath a challenge. "Never thought I'd miss Earth," Voss said, mostly to himself. "Grass is always greener," Kira replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "Unless you're standing in a crater," Marcus added, his mood unapologetically buoyant. They came upon a chamber that seemed to stretch impossibly in all directions, walls bending and twisting like they'd been crafted by a drunken god. The air hummed with a strange energy, a low vibration that set their teeth on edge. "I think this is it," Sasha said, her voice tinged with awe. "The epicenter." They spread out, eyes scanning the intricate designs that covered every surface. Voss felt a shiver run down his spine, the sensation of being watched making his skin crawl. "I don't like this," Kira muttered, her fingers tapping a nervous rhythm on her blaster. Marcus laughed, the sound echoing through the chamber. What's not to like? Ancient alien mysteries, potential death, questionable air quality. It's like a vacation. Remind me not to take travel advice from you, Voss replied, his focus shifting to a massive doorway at the far end. It loomed like a mouth waiting to swallow them whole. Do we go in? Sasha asked, her voice a mix of curiosity and dread. Voss hesitated, his instincts screaming at him to turn back. But then curiosity, the eternal curse of humanity, pushed him forward. What the hell? Let's see where this rabbit hole goes. As they approached, the door slid open with a hiss, revealing a corridor bathed in an unsettling green glow. They exchanged looks, a silent agreement passing between them. Forward, always forward. The path twisted and turned, each step taking them deeper into the heart of the unknown. The air shimmered with a strange luminescence, casting eerie shadows that danced on the walls. Anyone else feel like we're inside a giant creature? Marcus quipped, trying to lighten the mood. Voss couldn't muster a laugh. If we are, let's hope it doesn't burp. They emerged into another vast chamber, this one dominated by a structure that seemed to pulse with life. It was beautiful in the way a black hole might be, mesmerizing and utterly terrifying. This is it, Sasha whispered, awe dripping from every word. The Nexus. Now what? Kira asked, her voice betraying a sliver of fear. Now, Voss said, stepping forward, we try not to break anything. He approached the Nexus, each step a lesson in defying his own survival instincts. It beckoned, a siren call to the curious, the reckless, and the foolish. Meanwhile, the Zalker watched from afar, their collective consciousness buzzing with a mix of dread and fascination. The humans are like children, one observed. Always reaching for the fire, the other hummed in agreement. Let us hope they do not get burned. Back in the chamber, Voss reached out, his hand hovering inches from the Nexus. Its surface rippled like water, a tantalizing invitation. He hesitated, the weight of countless choices pressing down on him. Captain, Kira warned, her voice tight with the urgency of someone watching a train wreck in slow motion. Voss took a breath, his mind a cacophony of doubt and determination. It's always the quiet ones, he muttered, before plunging his hand into the unknown. The world exploded into light and sound, a cosmic symphony that filled every corner of his being. It was like staring into the sun while listening to the universe sing the blues. Voss heard his team shout, their voices distant and distorted, like echoes off mountains. He felt the pull of the Nexus, a gravitational force that threatened to tear him apart. But he held on, teeth gritted, refusing to let go. This was his choice, his moment of madness, and he'd be damned if he went out without a fight. As the light faded, the chamber settled into a tense silence, the kind that follows a storm. Voss staggered back, breathless and shaking, his head spinning like a carousel. Captain? Sasha asked, her eyes wide with concern. Yeah, he gasped, the reality of his decision sinking in. I'm good, I think. Kira smirked, relief evident in her eyes. Well, that was anticlimactic. Speak for yourself, Voss replied, trying to shake off the lingering effects of his cosmic encounter. That was the most excitement I've had since. Actually, let's not compare, Marcus chuckled, the tension in the room finally breaking. Next time, let's just play cards, less chance of losing a limb. As they regrouped, the enormity of what they had discovered began to sink in. The Nexus was a mystery, a puzzle that defied understanding, but it was theirs now, for better or worse. Voss looked around at his team, a motley crew of misfits and dreamers. Well, he said, trying to muster some semblance of optimism, at least we didn't die. Kira laughed, the sound sharp and genuine. Always a silver lining, Captain. Voss nodded, his resolve hardening. There was a universe out there waiting to be explored, its secrets ripe for the taking, and he intended to take them all. But for now, what lay before them was enough. The ruins of Ganymede held mysteries beyond their wildest dreams. And as humanity's representatives, they do what humans did best: poke, prod, and hope they didn't blow themselves up in the process. The corridor stretched before them, a winding gut of stone and shadows. the kind of place that would make even the bravest space explorer reconsider their career choices. But here they were, trundling forward like lemmings with a death wish, driven by curiosity and a distinct lack of self-preservation. "Whoever said curiosity killed the cat clearly never met us," Kira remarked, her blaster jiggling against her hip like a faithful but slightly neurotic dog. "Or maybe they did," Marcus piped up, his ever-present grin now tinged with a tinge of madness. "And we're just the sequel." Voss shook his head. "If we're a sequel, let's hope we're more Empire than Phantom Menace." As they pushed deeper into the labyrinth, the walls around them seemed to whisper secrets, the kind that would make a conspiracy theorist giddy with delight. Sasha's scanner beeped with increasing urgency, its display a kaleidoscope of data that defied easy interpretation. "Anything useful?" Voss asked, trying to sound hopeful but coming off more like a man resigned to his fate. Sasha squinted at the device like it had just insulted her intelligence. "Depends. If you consider we're all going to die in a spectacularly horrible way useful, then yes." "Cheery," Voss muttered, feeling the weight of the unknown pressing down on him like a hangover after a particularly bad night. The air buzzed around them, a strange vibration that seemed to seep into their bones. It was like the universe had swallowed a kazoo and was determined to play the world's most irritating symphony. "Feels like the universe is trying to tell us something," Marcus said, his voice echoing in the oppressive silence. "Yeah," Kira replied, her sarcasm sharp enough to cut through space-time. "It's telling us to get the hell out." They came to a fork in the path, two equally uninviting routes stretching into darkness. Voss considered flipping a coin but realized he'd probably lost it along with his sanity. "Which way, fearless leader?" Marcus asked, his enthusiasm for impending doom unflagging. Voss shrugged, the universal symbol for screw it, let's see what happens. "Left feels lucky." "Ah, the scientific method," Sasha quipped. "Left it is." The left path unfolded before them, a claustrophobic tunnel that seemed to close in with each step. The walls glimmered with an unnatural sheen like they were sweating anticipation. "Fantastic," Kira murmured. "Walls that look as uncomfortable as I feel." The tunnel opened into another chamber, this one piled high with artifacts that defied logic and, more importantly, IKEA assembly instructions. Strange devices hummed with latent power, their purposes as clear as a politician's promise. Sasha moved to one of the machines, her eyes scanning its surface with a mix of awe and exasperation. "This tech. It's like finding a smartphone in a Stone Age village." "Or a blender," Marcus added, peering over her shoulder. "Could be anything, really." "Knowing our luck, it's probably a toaster," Voss said, his voice dry as the Martian desert. "With our luck, it'll toast us," Kira muttered, suspicion woven into every word. As they explored, a sense of unease settled over them, a creeping dread that hinted at consequences far beyond their understanding. The artifact seemed to pulse with expectation, like a sleeping giant waiting to be roused. Meanwhile, in the cold, indifferent vastness of space, the Zalker convened once more. Their chamber glowed with a light that held no warmth, a stark reminder of their detachment from the chaos of human emotion. "The humans have reached the nexus," one Zalker intoned, its voice a melody of distaste. "They fumble in the dark, seeking what they cannot comprehend," another replied, its tone laced with disdain. "And yet they persist," the first continued, a hint of grudging admiration in its voice. "Their adaptability is unusual." "You suggest they possess souls?" the second asked, its words heavy with skepticism. "Perhaps not souls as we understand them," the first conceded, "but something akin to it, a fire that refuses to be extinguished." "A dangerous fire," the second cautioned. "One that could consume all." Back in the labyrinth, Voss and his team pressed on, the weight of their discovery a constant, oppressive presence. The ruins of Ganymede seemed to breathe around them, a living entity with its own inscrutable agenda. "Anyone else feel like we're walking in circles?" Marcus asked, his voice an uneasy blend of humor and fear. Only if circles came with existential dread, Kira replied, her eyes darting around like a paranoid ferret. They reached another chamber, this one dominated by a vast crystalline structure that glowed with an eerie inner light. It was beautiful, in the way a bomb is beautiful just before it goes off. "This looks promising," Sasha said, though her tone suggested she wasn't entirely convinced. "Or like a really bad idea," Voss countered, his instincts screaming at him to turn back. "Same thing, really," Marcus observed, his perpetual optimism a baffling constant. Voss approached the crystal, the memory of the nexus still fresh in his mind. He felt its pull, a magnetic attraction that defied logic and reason. "Careful, Captain," Kira warned, her hand hovering near her blaster, a twitch away from action. Voss hesitated, the weight of his next move pressing down like 1,000 bad decisions. "Anyone got a quarter? I think this thing takes coins." Marcus laughed, the sound echoing through the chamber like a ghostly chorus. "If it did, I'd be rich." Summoning what little courage remained, Voss reached out, his hand grazing the surface of the crystal. It was cool to the touch, a sensation that sent shivers through him, a prelude to the unknown. The chamber resonated with a low hum, a note of anticipation that set their teeth on edge. Voss pulled back, his instincts warring with his curiosity. "Okay, that was fun," he said, trying to muster a sense of levity. "Let's not do that again." "Agreed," Sasha said, backing away from the crystal like it was a particularly aggressive snake. They regrouped, the weight of their discovery hanging over them like a storm cloud. The ruins held more questions than answers, each one more confounding than the last. "So, what's the plan?" Marcus asked, his tone suggesting he was up for anything as long as it involved more excitement than death. "First we get out of here," Voss said, his resolve hardening with each word. "Then we figure out what the hell we've stumbled into." "And if we can't?" Kira asked, her voice a challenge wrapped in concern. "Then we do what humans always do," Voss replied, a wry smile tugging at his lips. "We fake it till we make it." With renewed determination they retraced their steps, the labyrinth reluctant to relinquish its hold. The path seemed longer on the way back, each twist and turn a reminder of how far they'd come. As they exited the ruins, the air felt lighter, the oppressive weight of the unknown lifting like a morning fog. They paused, catching their breath under the alien sky of Ganymede, the stars blinking with indifferent curiosity. "Well," Voss said, surveying the ruins with reluctant admiration, "that was something. Something we'll probably regret," Sasha added, though her smile belied her words. "Or something we'll toast to," Marcus said, ever the optimist. Kira chuckled, the sound a balm against the tension. "Let's just hope it's not our own funeral." As they made their way back to their ship, the enormity of their discovery settled in, a promise and a threat wrapped in mystery. The universe was vast, its secrets endless, and they were just beginning to scratch the surface. "Think we made history?" Marcus asked, his eyes wide with the possibilities. "Or a footnote," Voss replied, his voice a blend of pragmatism and hope. But whatever lay ahead, they would face it together, a ragtag band of adventurers bound by curiosity and madness. The chronicle of humanity's folly and triumph would continue, one step and one misstep at a time. Back in the void, the Zalker watched, their debate unresolved, their fascination with humanity undiminished. "The humans may yet surprise us," one mused, its voice a ripple in the cosmic tapestry. "Or they may destroy themselves," another countered, its tone a flat chord of skepticism. But for now the question remained unanswered, a riddle wrapped in human tenacity. And as the Zalker pondered, the humans pressed on, ever forward, ever curious, their eyes fixed on the stars above. Part of Captain Ryland Voss's job was to pretend he knew what he was doing, especially when he had no clue. Standing at another fork in this god-forsaken labyrinth, he felt like he was leading a tour group armed with sarcasm and blasters instead of cameras. The corridors had shifted again. He could have sworn they'd taken the left path 2 chambers back, but now it was like the maze had been rearranged by a drunk architect with a vendetta. "Anyone else getting déjà vu?" Marcus asked, his grin practically audible even in the dim light. "More like Deja Screw," Kira muttered, her hand never straying far from her hip blaster. "This place is playing tricks on us." Sasha's scanner beeped incessantly, like a disgruntled R2 unit throwing a tantrum. "According to this, we're either right where we started or in a completely different dimension where physics is an optional extra." "Splendid," Voss said, mustering a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Sounds like just another Tuesday." They continued onward, the oppressive air of the corridor pressing in like a bad memory that refused to quit. The walls here were warped, undulating like they had aspirations of being a funhouse mirror but lacked the sense of humor. "How are we supposed to find our way out if the damn place keeps changing?" Kira snapped, her patience thinner than a politician's promise. "Think of it as a challenge," Voss replied, trying to sound more confident than he felt. "Like solving a Rubik's Cube that wants to eat you." "Great," Sasha said, rolling her eyes. "I always wanted a death trap that was also a brain teaser." Marcus was peering intently at the shifting walls, his permanent grin only slightly diminished by the situation. "What if it's like a dance? You know, follow the rhythm. And if you step on its toes, you die," Kira suggested, arching a brow. "Can't dance, don't know," Marcus retorted, shrugging. "But it's worth a shot." Voss considered the idea, not because it made sense but because nothing else did. He pressed a hand to the wall, feeling for vibrations, hoping for some sign of what the maze had in mind. The corridor seemed to pulse beneath his fingers, a disorienting thrum that made his teeth ache. It reminded him of when he had too much to drink, and the world turned into a merry-go-round designed by a sadist. "Think it's trying to tell us something," Voss said, not entirely sure he believed it. "Yeah," Sasha replied. "The messages get lost or get dead." Voss turned his head, noticing a subtle shift in the light ahead, an almost imperceptible difference. "That way," he said, pointing. "Pretty sure that's the way out." "Pretty sure?" Kira questioned, her skepticism as sharp as ever. "More sure than I am about my last tax return," Voss replied. "So optimistically dubious." "Well, that's reassuring," Sasha said, not even trying to hide her sarcasm. They moved forward, following Voss's intuition, which was half instinct and half desperation, with a healthy dose of caffeine withdrawal thrown in. It was then that the labyrinth decided to up its game. The walls began to shift more violently, grinding like tectonic plates in a slapstick earthquake. "Now it's a disco," Marcus noted, his voice carrying a note of awe. "One with a vendetta." They stumbled through the shifting corridors, trying to keep their footing as the floor bucked like a bronco. Voss was half tempted to start yelling yeehaw, just to see if the universe had a sense of humor. "Keep moving," he shouted, as the corridor yawned open like a cavernous maw, threatening to swallow them whole. The light ahead grew brighter, sharper, cutting through the gloom with all the subtlety of a high beam in a dark alley. Voss squinted against it, feeling the pull of it in his bones. "This better be the way out," Kira grumbled. "I'm not in the mood to meet our new alien overlords." "Think positive," Marcus said, though even his optimism seemed strained. "Maybe they'll just want to trade recipes." "You think they are big on casseroles?" Sasha asked, her tone as dry as the Martian desert. "Could be a whole intergalactic potluck." They stumbled into a new chamber, larger, more imposing, the kind of place that looked like it should come with a warning sign and a waiver. The walls were etched with patterns that defied logic, swirls and lines that seemed to shift even as you looked at them. "Feels like it's watching us," Sasha observed, her eyes scanning the room with a mix of fascination and wariness. "Maybe it likes what it sees," Marcus suggested, his grin making a reluctant return. "Or maybe it's sizing us up for dinner," Kira shot back. The centerpiece of the room was a massive pedestal, upon which rested a device that looked suspiciously like a giant kaleidoscope. Voss approached it with a mixture of curiosity and dread, the kind of feeling one got when they were about to open a mystery box that might contain treasure or a very angry snake. "Think this is the key to getting out of here?" Voss asked, not really expecting an answer. "Could be," Sasha said, poking at the scanner. Or it could just be an alien's idea of a coffee table. Voss reached out, hesitating just long enough to question his own sanity, then touched the edge of the device. The room responded with a low hum, like a purring cat the size of a planet. "Guess we're about to find out," Voss said, more to himself than anyone else. The room shifted again, but this time it was less chaotic, more rhythmic, like the labyrinth had decided to stop being hostile and start being helpful, or at least less homicidal. "We're moving," Kira noted, unnecessarily since they could all feel it. "Figured that out on your own," Marcus teased, earning a mock punch to the arm. The walls reconfigured in a way that suggested the room had a sense of humor, albeit a dark one, like the universe was winking at them. "Think it likes us," Sasha said, her skepticism giving way to grudging respect. "Yeah, well, I'm not ready to meet its parents," Kira replied, scanning for threats as their surroundings settled. The corridor ahead was different, broader and more inviting, as if the labyrinth had decided to roll out the red carpet, assuming it had a carpet, which it didn't, because space. "Let's move before it changes its mind," Voss said, leading the way with a confidence he didn't completely feel, but was determined to fake until he made it. They moved forward, the path suddenly more navigable, the labyrinth seemingly guiding them toward an exit instead of certain doom. It was unsettling, like when a cat suddenly decides to be affectionate right before it claws your face off. "I don't trust it," Kira muttered, voicing what they were all thinking. "Trust is a luxury," Voss replied, keeping his eyes on the shifting walls. "Let's just hope it doesn't come with a price tag." The Zalker watched in their distant chamber, their debate an eternal murmur against the backdrop of the cosmos. "These humans," one of them mused, observing the scene like a critic at a particularly avant-garde performance. "They adapt rather well, wouldn't you say? Very resourceful," another conceded, begrudgingly impressed. "Their tenacity is unusual, or perhaps foolish," a third countered, its voice a melody of skepticism. "And yet they survive." The first Zalker tilted its head, intrigued. "Perhaps that is their strength." Back in the labyrinth, Voss and his team pressed on, feeling the pull of the exit like a promise. The path was clearer now, the way forward less shrouded in mystery, but every step carried the weight of the unknown, like they were walking into the punchline of a cosmic joke they weren't privy to. "This is it," Voss said, pointing to the light at the end of the tunnel. It was the cliché they'd been striving for, and he felt a strange sense of accomplishment mixed with the dread of what lay beyond. They stepped out into the light, the alien sky of Ganymede stretching above them with indifferent majesty. The ship was there, waiting like a faithful hound, ready to whisk them away from this madness. "Well, that was a trip," Marcus said, looking back at the ruins with a mixture of awe and relief. "Trip to hell and back," Kira agreed, holstering her blaster with a flick. Sasha was still fiddling with her scanner, her expression a blend of triumph and disbelief. "Can't wait to see what the eggheads make of this data," she said, her voice tinged with a grudging respect for the ruins that had nearly killed them. "Think we'll ever come back?" Marcus asked, his usual grin tempered by their experience. "Only if I develop a sudden death wish," Voss replied, though his tone was lighter now, the weight of their journey lifting as they boarded their ship. The ship hummed to life, its engines a familiar, comforting sound as they left the enigmatic beauty of the ruins behind. Voss took the helm, his mind a maelstrom of thoughts, already plotting their next move. "You think the universe will miss us?" Kira asked, settling into her seat with a sigh. "Not likely," Voss replied, a smirk tugging at his lips. "We're like bad guests at a party, interesting for a while, but best when we leave." As the stars stretched into infinity, the team settled into the routine of space travel, the tension dissipating like morning mist. They had faced the unknown, battled illusions and shifting corridors, and emerged with stories to tell and scars to show for it. Their journey was far from over, but for now, they could breathe easier, knowing they had conquered this particular slice of the universe. "Think we'll make the history books," Marcus mused, gazing at the stars. More like a cautionary tale, Voss replied, chuckling. But hey, at least it'll be one hell of a tale. With the universe stretching before them, a vast expanse of mystery and danger, the crew prepared for whatever lay ahead, united by their shared experience and undeterred by the challenges to come. They were explorers, adventurers, and occasionally idiots, but they were humanity's finest, and they wouldn't have it any other way. The Ganymede ruins loomed behind them like a nightmare they could almost laugh about now if it hadn't nearly killed them. Voss sat at the helm, enjoying the fleeting peace as they soared through the inky black of space. His crew was alive, and that was a small miracle in itself. But like all good things, it lasted about as long as a politician's promise. "What the hell is that?" Kira asked, eyes glued to the scanner screen. The ship's sensors were throwing a fit, blaring alarms with the enthusiasm of a fire drill in a pyrotechnics factory. Sasha leaned over the console, brow furrowed. "Looks like the universe decided to have a party and didn't invite us." Voss squinted at the chaotic display. "Multiverse alignment. Perfect. Just what we needed." He ran a hand through his hair, trying to ignore the impending migraine. Like navigating Ganymede's labyrinth wasn't enough. "Seems the universe has a sick sense of humor," Marcus chuckled. "So, what's the plan, fearless leader?" Voss sighed, his grin as crooked as ever. "We go back." "Back." Sasha gave him a look like he'd suggested they juggle grenades. "Back to the ruins that just tried to eat us." Voss nodded, a glimmer of mischief in his eyes. "Well, technically, they just spat us out. We hit the cosmic jackpot, folks. If we can snatch some artifacts during this alignment, we might just prove to those Zalker busybodies that we're worth keeping around." "Artifacts," Kira echoed, skeptical. "You mean those things we didn't find when the walls were trying to make us into human pancakes?" "Yeah, those," Voss replied, deadpan. "Only now they are in a more cooperative mood." "Or so I hope." "Great," Sasha muttered. "A treasure hunt with a side of cosmic instability. What's life without a bit of existential dread?" Marcus quipped, stretching his arms. "Keeps the blood pumping." Voss angled the ship back toward Ganymede, feeling the weight of their task settling on his shoulders like a second skin. "Buckle up, crew. If we're going back into that death trap, we better make it count." The ship descended once more onto Ganymede's surface with a disquieting thud, a stark reminder that space travel had all the grace of a bull in a china shop. Still, they were here, and that was something. "Feels like we're tempting fate," Kira grumbled as they disembarked, her hand never straying far from her blaster. "Fate's got nothing on us," Voss replied, a touch of bravado creeping into his voice. "We've got caffeine withdrawals and a half-baked plan." The labyrinth's entrance loomed ahead, unchanged and unfriendly, like a bouncer at a club they were too sober to enter. Voss led the way, his steps carrying the weight of cautious optimism or foolish courage, depending on who you asked. "You brought the scanner, right?" Sasha asked, not bothering to hide the worry in her tone. "Wouldn't leave the ship without it," Voss assured, patting the device like it was an old friend. "It's our guiding light in this pit of despair." As they ventured back into the shifting corridors, it was clear the labyrinth was in a state of flux. The walls moved with a manic energy, like a drunken dance partner with no sense of rhythm. They pressed on, following Sasha's scanner, hoping the device would point them toward something worthwhile. "This place has all the charm of a haunted house," Marcus remarked, eyeing the shadows with a wary smile. "But without the exit signs." "Just keep your eyes peeled," Voss cautioned, "and your sarcasm ready." They stumbled upon a room that seemed to defy logic, a pattern for this place. The walls shimmered with hues that shouldn't exist, and in the center lay a collection of artifacts, seemingly untouched by time or madness. "Jackpot," Sasha breathed, her voice a mix of awe and disbelief. Kira approached the artifacts with all the enthusiasm of a cat near water. "These things better be worth it." "Only one way to find out," Voss said, cautiously reaching out. The artifacts seemed to hum with an energy that was both enticing and dangerous, like the universe itself was daring them to take a souvenir. As Sasha scanned the artifacts, the labyrinth trembled, a reminder that their time was short. "We need to move," she urged, her fingers flying over the device's controls. "This alignment won't last forever. Grab what you can," Voss instructed, adrenaline spiking through his veins. "And pray the Zalker are in a generous mood." With quick, practiced motions, they gathered the artifacts, each one a potential key to proving humanity's worth. The labyrinth groaned around them, walls shifting with a drunken lurch. "Time's up," Kira warned, urgency sharpening her voice. They raced back through the corridors, the shifting walls snapping at their heels like a cosmic beast eager for a meal. It was a chaotic sprint, adrenaline and fear warring for dominance. "Remind me why we do this," Marcus shouted over the din, his grin as wild as the labyrinth itself. "Because we're idiots," Voss yelled back, the thrill of the chase igniting something reckless within him. The exit loomed ahead, a beacon of salvation in a sea of madness. With one last burst of speed, they tumbled out, breathless and alive. The ruins shuddered behind them, a final, disgruntled farewell as the multiverse alignment faded, leaving only the silence of Ganymede's surface. "Made it," Sasha panted, clutching the artifacts like they were the last lifeline in a sinking ship. "More or less," Kira added, holstering her blaster with a shaky laugh. "So what now?" "Now," Voss said, catching his breath. "We see what these things can do, and hope the Zalker aren't too picky." They boarded the ship, the artifacts secured, the weight of their mission settling like an old, familiar cloak. As they ascended, the ruins faded into memory, a reminder of the relentless unknown they faced. The ship's interior hummed with the soft vibrancy of life support, a comforting noise after the chaos of Ganymede. Voss took a seat, eyeing the artifacts with a gaze that held equal parts hope and trepidation. "You really think these will make a difference?" Marcus asked, his usual bravado tempered by the weight of their haul. Voss shrugged, the smirk playing at his lips belying the gravity of his thoughts. "If they don't, at least we'll have a nice story to tell. Assuming there's anyone left to tell it to," Kira added, her tone as dry as ever. "Always the optimist," Sasha chided, but her smile softened the words. As the ship sailed into the star-strewn void, Voss felt a pang of something akin to optimism, a rare commodity in their line of work. They had defied the odds, braved the labyrinth's wrath, and emerged with treasures of potential. The universe was vast, unpredictable, and often indifferent, but in this moment they were more than mere wanderers in the dark. They were survivors, dreamers, and perhaps a little bit mad. "Think the Zalker will roll out the welcome mat," Marcus mused, stretching his legs. "If they do, it'll be the first time," Voss replied, laughter bubbling up despite the uncertainty. "But I like to think we've earned it." The ship drifted on, a lone vessel in an ocean of stars, the promise of adventure and danger a constant companion. The universe might not care about their plight, but for now they had each other, and that was enough. "So what's next on the itinerary?" Kira asked, settling back with a sigh. Voss grinned, his gaze fixed on the endless possibilities ahead. "Whatever's out there, we'll face it, together." And as the ship sailed on, carrying them toward the unknown, Voss couldn't help but feel a spark of hope, however fleeting. In a universe that seldom offered assurances, it was their resilience that would make the difference, their tenacity that might just tip the scales in humanity's favor. "To the next great adventure," Sasha toasted, raising an imaginary glass. "To survival," Kira amended, her wry smile a testament to their shared struggle. "To us," Marcus added, his voice carrying the warmth of camaraderie. And with that, they sailed into the starry expanse, hearts lightened by the thrill of unknown horizons, the promise of new challenges, and the unyielding spirit that marked them as explorers of the universe. The ship's interior was filled with a comforting hum, the kind that suggested things were working as they should. Of course, that was a lie. The universe wasn't capable of comfort, and the ship was about as reliable as a toaster on a rainy day. But for the moment, it held together, and that was something. Voss, however, couldn't shake the feeling that the universe was conspiring against him. Maybe it was the cosmic alignment, maybe it was the labyrinth, or maybe it was just his brain, refusing to shut up. As they were drifting away from Ganymede's unwelcoming embrace, the Labyrinth decided to throw one last tantrum. The ship shuddered violently, and Voss knew something had gone very, very wrong. The alarm screamed again, this time with the urgency of a toddler denied candy. "What now?" Marcus groaned, gripping his seat like it was the last bit of sanity in a world gone mad. "Looks like Ganymede wants a piece of us," Kira said, her fingers flying over the controls trying to stabilize their descent into chaos. "No thank you, we don't do autographs," Voss muttered, trying to keep his voice steady and failing spectacularly. The ship lurched again, and with a final, spiteful shudder it spat them out, separating the crew like a magician's trick gone awry. Voss found himself alone, the comforting chatter of his crew replaced by static and the unsettling groan of the ship's hull. Nothing like a little existential isolation to start the day," he said to the empty bridge, trying to ignore the rising panic in his chest. Voss fiddled with the comms, hoping to reconnect with his team. "Anyone out there? Or am I talking to myself just for kicks?" Static. The universe, ever the comedian, answered with silence. "Well, this is just perfect," he grumbled, slumping back into his chair. "Captain of a ghost ship. Always wanted to put that on my resume." He tried to focus, but doubt clawed at his mind with a relentless persistence. Was this mission worth it? Was he leading his team toward glory or a premature grave? The artifacts tucked safely away seemed less like treasures and more like cosmic bait. "Voss, you there?" Sasha's voice crackled through the static, a lifeline in the void. "Still kicking," Voss replied, relief washing over him like a cold shower. "Though I can't say the same for our plan. Any sign of the others?" "Lost in the static," Sasha admitted, her voice steady despite the grim situation. "I'm trying to boost the signal, but it's like wrestling with a greased pig." "Keep at it," Voss said, the words a hollow echo of command. "We'll get through this." "Optimism doesn't suit you," Sasha quipped, a wry edge to her words. "Desperation, then," Voss shot back. "It's the new black." He glanced at the artifacts again, their strange shapes casting peculiar shadows. They should have been a triumph, the pinnacle of their reckless expedition. Now they seemed more like an anchor dragging them into the abyss. "Sasha, you ever wonder why we do this?" Voss asked, drumming his fingers on the console. "Besides the thrill of imminent death," she replied dryly. "I guess it's the hope that there's something better out there. Or maybe we're just idiots." "Probably a bit of both," Voss conceded, a weary smile tugging at his lips. "Any luck with the comms?" "Not yet," Sasha said, frustration creeping into her voice. "But I'll keep trying. I didn't survive Ganymede just to get ghosted by the universe." Voss leaned back, trying to shake off the doubt and focus on the task at hand. But the questions lingered, nagging at him like a persistent itch. What if they were wrong? What if these artifacts were nothing more than cosmic trinkets, useless in proving humanity's worth? What if the Zalker saw them as a laughable attempt at relevance? "Snap out of it, Voss," he muttered to himself, trying to inject some resolve into his voice. "You're not dead yet." A flicker on the console grabbed his attention, and for a moment hope sparked. It was Kira's voice, cutting through the interference like a knife. "Voss, you old bastard, you still with us?" "Never felt more alive," he lied, relief flooding through him. "What's your status?" "Alive and kicking, but I've lost sight of the ship." "It's like the Labyrinth threw a tantrum and we were the toys." "Join the club," Voss said, feeling a bit of his old bravado returning. "Sasha's trying to get the comms sorted. Sit tight." "Not like I've got anywhere else to be," Kira replied, her voice laced with sarcasm. As he waited for Sasha to work her magic on the comms, Voss couldn't help but think back to when he first embarked on this fool's errand. The allure of discovery, the promise of proving their worth to the Zalker, it all seemed so noble at the time. Now the only thing noble about it was their stubborn refusal to die quietly. "Voss," Sasha's voice buzzed through the static, "got a fix on Marcus. He's holed up in the cargo bay trying not to kiss the ceiling with every bump." "Where else would he be?" Voss said, rolling his eyes. "Let him know we're still in one piece, more or less." "Already did," Sasha replied. "He's complaining about the lack of in-flight snacks." Voss smirked, the familiar banter grounding him amidst the chaos. "Tell him it's Baya, bring your own bravery." "Will do," Sasha said, her voice a balm to his frayed nerves. The ship groaned around him, a reminder that their situation was far from stable. Voss knew they needed to regroup, to pull their collective heads out of their asses and figure out a way out of this mess. But the doubts still lingered, whispering their insidious tales of failure and futility. He glanced once more at the artifacts, their alien contours a testament to a universe that refused to be understood. They were a gamble, a roll of the dice in a game where the stakes were nothing less than survival. "You know what we need," Voss said, mostly to himself but loud enough that Sasha could hear. "A miracle or a really good bluff." "Bluffing's more our style," Sasha replied, a hint of amusement in her voice. "Miracles are for the unprepared." "Then let's make it a good one," Voss said, determination hardening his voice. "Get the team back together and let's show the universe what we're made of." Over the next agonizing minutes, Sasha worked her technical sorcery, patching up the comms with the urgency of a medic at a battlefield. One by one, the crew's voices filtered back, each a welcome relief in the storm of uncertainty. "Marcus here," came the unmistakable drawl, casual as ever. "I knew you'd miss me." "Don't flatter yourself," Voss replied, though his grin was genuine. "Glad to hear your charming voice." "Charming, huh? Flattery will get you everywhere, Captain," Marcus quipped, the levity a balm to their ragged nerves. As they shared updates, the crew pieced together their situation, each voice a thread in the fabric of their shared struggle. With each word, Voss felt the weight of his doubts lifting, replaced by the steady resolve of his team. "All right, everyone," Voss began, the weight of command settling onto his shoulders once more. "We're not out of this yet, the ship's holding but barely. We need a plan." "How about don't explode?" Marcus suggested, ever the comedian. "Seems like a solid start." "Good call," Kira chimed in, her voice steady. "And maybe find a way to make these artifacts worth the trouble." "Working on it," Sasha assured, her focus unflagging. "Though we might need a bit more than duct tape and wishful thinking." As they debated their options, Voss felt a flicker of hope, a dangerous thing in their line of work, but a necessary one. They had survived the Labyrinth's wrath, navigated the chaotic storm of the multiverse, and come out with more than just scars. They had each other, a band of misfits bound by a shared defiance against a universe that seemed determined to grind them to dust. "Voss," Kira said, her voice cutting through the chatter, "do you ever wonder why we're doing this? Really doing it, I mean." He paused, considering his answer. He could spin a tale of heroism, of duty and honor, but it would be a lie. The truth was simpler and far more human. "Because we can," he said finally, the words carrying an unvarnished honesty. "Because if we don't, who will?" It wasn't the grand speech of an inspirational leader, but it was enough. It was the truth, stripped of pretense and polished simplicity. It was their shared creed, the reason they dared to venture into the unknown. "All right, enough of the soul-searching," Marcus interrupted, his tone light but his words grounded. "Let's focus on not dying first. Then we can get back to questioning the meaning of life." "Agreed," Sasha added, her voice a steady anchor amidst the uncertainty. "I've got a possible route to stabilize our trajectory." "It's a long shot, but it's something." "Then let's take it," Voss said, his resolve renewed. "We've faced worse odds and come out on top. No sense in stopping now." The ship lurched again, a reminder that their time was limited. But Voss felt the fear receding, replaced by something far more potent, determination. As Sasha guided them through the labyrinthine chaos of space, Voss found himself focusing not on the impossibility of their situation, but on the possibility of success. The path ahead was uncertain, the outcome unknown, but they would face it together, a band of survivors defying the universe with every breath. The comms crackled with the voices of his crew, their camaraderie a lifeline in the dark. They had faced the labyrinth's wrath and come out stronger, a testament to their resolve and their shared belief in the impossible. "All right, team," Voss said, his voice carrying the weight of their shared struggle. "Let's show the universe what we're made of, together." And so they sailed on, a lone vessel in the chaos of the cosmos, bound by a shared purpose and a refusal to surrender. They were more than just explorers. They were survivors, dreamers, and perhaps a little bit mad. But in this moment, it was enough. "All right, listen up," Voss barked as the ship groaned like an old man getting out of bed. "We need to figure out how to stabilize this flying toaster before it decides to explode and ruin my day." "Ideas, anyone? Besides praying to the gods of space luck," Marcus chimed in, kicking back in his seat as if they weren't teetering on the edge of doom. "How about we just strap some duct tape on the hull and hope for the best?" "Duct tape's not gonna cut it this time, Marcus," Sasha replied, her eyes glued to the console, fingers flying across the holographic display like she was playing an intergalactic piano. "We need a plan that's less haphazard patch job and more ingenious engineering miracle." "Well, don't look at me," Kira said, voice crackling over the comms as she fiddled with an overhead panel somewhere in the bowels of the ship. "I'm just the muscle. You guys handle the brainy stuff." Voss leaned over Sasha's shoulder, trying to decipher the mess of flashing symbols and data on the console. It was as comprehensible as a toddler's finger painting. "All right, Sasha, give us the lowdown. What's our best shot?" Sasha sighed, running a hand through her hair. "We need to stabilize the ruins long enough to get some decent scans and maybe snatch a few artifacts without getting squished like bugs under a boot. Problem is, the multiverse alignment's making the walls shift faster than Voss changes his opinion on leadership." "Hey," Voss protested with mock indignation, "I only change my mind when I'm wrong, which is, admittedly, more often than I'd like." "So, how do we pull this off?" Marcus asked, sounding more intrigued than concerned. "I'd rather not end up part of the ship's interior design." "I've got a few ideas," Sasha said, sliding into her familiar role of the group's tech wizard. "We could try rerouting some power from the engines to the stabilizers. It might keep the walls from playing musical chairs with us." "And what happens if it doesn't?" Marcus prodded, eyebrow raised. "Then we add flattened space adventurers to the universe's growing list of cosmic jokes," Sasha replied dryly. "Sounds like my kind of gamble," Voss said, giving Sasha a nod. "Let's get to it. Kira, Marcus, you two handle the manual overrides. Sasha and I will work on the power reroute." "Got it," Kira responded, a click of her tongue punctuating the message. "Just don't blow us up before I get there." "No promises," Sasha muttered, already diving into the task with the kind of focus that made the rest of them look like amateurs. As the team sprang into action, Voss couldn't help but marvel at the sight. Here they were, a ragtag bunch of misfits, each with their own quirks and questionable life choices, yet somehow they made it work. It was the kind of camaraderie that could only be forged in the fires of shared stupidity and the occasional brush with death. "Hey, Voss," Marcus called from somewhere behind a panel, "you ever think we might actually pull this off? Like not just not dying, but actually succeeding?" Voss paused, considering the question. "Depends what you mean by succeeding. Surviving this mess, sure, why not? But as for actually walking away with something useful, well, let's just say I'm not holding my breath." "Optimism at its finest," Marcus chuckled. "I knew there was a reason we kept you around." "Yeah, to remind you that reality's a harsh mistress," Voss shot back, feeling a grin tugging at his lips despite the situation. The ship rattled again, an ominous reminder of their precarious position. Voss tightened his grip on the console, feeling the tension in the air like a coiled spring ready to snap. "Power reroute's almost done," Sasha announced, fingers flying with the kind of precision that would make a surgeon jealous. "Just a few more tweaks and we should be good to go." "Great, 'cause I think this panel's about to give up and take me with it," Kira grunted, the sound of metal clanging in the background. "Could use a little less excitement and a lot more stability." "Story of our lives," Marcus chimed in. "But hey, at least we're not bored, right?" "Boredom's overrated," Voss agreed. "Give me a life-threatening crisis any day." With a final flourish, Sasha hit the last key and the ship's systems hummed to life, the vibrations settling into something almost resembling calm. It was like a lullaby for adrenaline junkies. "Reroute complete," Sasha announced, wiping her brow with the back of her hand. "That should keep the walls from closing in on us like a bad date." "Nice work, team," Voss said, feeling a surge of pride for his crew. "Now let's see if we can make those scans worth the trouble." As the ship's sensors began their sweep, Voss took a moment to reflect on their madcap journey. They'd faced the labyrinth's shifting corridors, the chaos of the multiverse, and enough existential dread to fuel a philosopher's wet dream. But through it all, they'd stuck together, a testament to the resilience of humanity, or maybe just their collective stubbornness. "Scans coming through," Sasha reported, her voice a mix of excitement and relief. "Looks like we've got some promising artifact signatures. If we can snag a few, it might just make this whole debacle worthwhile." "That's the kind of news I need to hear," Kira said, her tone lightening. "Now let's grab those shiny treasures and get the hell out of here before the universe changes its mind." Voss nodded, feeling the weight of their shared struggle lifting, if only slightly. They'd come this far, braving dangers that would have sent lesser crews running. And now, with a little luck and a lot of skill, they might just walk away with something to show for it. "All right, folks," Voss said, his voice steady with newfound resolve. "Let's finish what we started. We've proved we can survive, now let's prove we can succeed." The comms crackled with a chorus of agreement, each voice a thread in the tapestry of their shared journey. It wasn't the end of their troubles, but it was a turning point. A reminder that even in the darkest corners of the universe, there was always a glimmer of hope. As they moved to retrieve the artifacts, Voss felt a sense of unity among the crew, a bond forged through adversity, and the shared desire to defy the odds. They were more than just a team. They were a family bound not by blood but by choice. And as they sailed on through the chaos of the cosmos, Voss couldn't help but feel that maybe, just maybe, they were on the brink of something extraordinary. Something that would prove, against all odds, that humanity was far more resilient than the universe gave them credit for. With the artifacts secured and the ship's course set for home, Voss allowed himself a rare moment of optimism. They'd faced the labyrinth's wrath and come out stronger, a testament to their resolve and their shared belief in the impossible. "All right, team," Voss said, his voice carrying the weight of their shared struggle. "Let's show the universe what we're made of, together." And so they sailed on, a lone vessel in the chaos of the cosmos, bound by a shared purpose and a refusal to surrender. They were more than just explorers, they were survivors, dreamers, and perhaps a little bit mad. But in this moment it was enough. As they left the ruins behind, Voss knew that their journey was far from over. The universe was vast and unforgiving, filled with untold dangers and wonders alike. But with his crew by his side, he felt ready to face whatever lay ahead, because together they were unstoppable. "Hey, Voss," Sasha called, breaking the silence that had settled over the bridge. "You ever think about what comes next, after all this?" Voss pondered the question, the possibilities stretching out before him like stars in the night sky. "I don't know," he admitted. "But whatever it is, we'll face it like we always do, head-on and with a healthy dose of sarcasm." "Can't argue with that," Marcus chuckled, his voice a comforting presence in the dark. "Here's to the next adventure," Kira added, a note of anticipation in her voice. "To the next adventure," Voss echoed, feeling a warmth spreading through him that had nothing to do with the ship's temperamental heating system. And as the stars stretched out before them, infinite and unknowable, Voss felt a sense of peace. They'd faced the labyrinth and survived its wrath. They'd defied the odds and emerged stronger, ready to take on whatever challenges lay ahead. Because in the end, it wasn't just about surviving. It was about living, truly living, in a universe that seemed determined to grind them down. And as the ship sailed on through the cosmic night, Voss knew that whatever the future held, they would face it together. As a team, as a family, as explorers of the unknown, and that, he thought with a wry smile, was all he could ever ask for. The ship's sensors hummed like a grumpy old man who just realized he's run out of coffee. Voss took a moment to savor the sweet, sweet sound of impending doom being postponed. "All right, Sasha," he barked over the comms. "What's the verdict?" "Looks like we hit the jackpot, Captain Sarcasm," Sasha replied, her voice dripping with the kind of enthusiasm one usually reserves for tax returns. "The scanners are lighting up like a Christmas tree on speed. We've got artifact signatures out the wazoo." "Finally, some good news," Marcus chimed in, his voice a blend of relief and surprise, like a man who just found out his parole was approved. "Or are the artifacts just the universe's way of saying, haha, gotcha?" "Wouldn't be the first time," Kira muttered from behind her panel, the sound of tools clanging like a symphony of chaos. "Just make sure we don't end up on the wrong end of a cosmic joke." Voss cracked a grin, though there was more grim than grin to it. "Let's not get too excited just yet. It's not like the universe to give without taking a pound of flesh first." "Right," Sasha said, dry as the Martian desert. "But I think we've got a shot at snagging something that won't kill us." "Yet, well, that's comforting," Voss replied, rubbing his temples. The crew was a ragtag bunch of misfits, but they were his misfits, damn it, and he was oddly proud of their collective stubbornness. The ship, bless its cranky circuits, had stabilized just enough for them to make their mad dash into the ruins. The walls had stopped their infernal shifting, at least for the moment. It was like the universe had decided to hit the pause button on its favorite game of squash the humans. "All right, team," Voss said, his tone the kind of firm you use when telling a cat not to knock over the vase. "Let's get those artifacts and find out what all this fuss is about." The ruins loomed before them, dark and ominous, like a particularly stern librarian shushing them with every step. The corridors twisted and turned, the air heavy with a sense of something watching, waiting. "Anyone else feel like they're walking into a horror movie?" Marcus asked, his voice light despite the tension in the air. "Only if it's one of those B-grade ones where they forget to write an ending," Sasha replied, her scanner beeping away like a caffeine-addled bird. Voss glanced around, his eyes narrowed. "Just stay sharp. If the walls start moving, we bolt. No heroics, no last stands. We grab what we can and get the hell out." Kira hefted her tool belt with a determined look that could probably cow a charging bull. "I've got the manual overrides prepped. Just hope they don't decide to override me instead." "Always the optimist," Marcus said with a grin that was more teeth than humor. They moved through the labyrinth, feet crunching on ancient debris. The air tasted stale, the kind that made you yearn for a breath of something fresher like exhaust fumes or a burnt toast. "Okay, gang," Sasha announced, her scanner beeping with renewed vigor. "We've got a big one up ahead. Looks like a main chamber and it's humming with energy." "Humming's good, right?" Marcus said, his voice half joking. "Or is that just the sound of our impending doom?" "Could go either way," Sasha admitted. "But think of it this way. If it explodes, at least we won't have to worry about paying off the ship." "Nice to know you've got a silver lining planned," Voss said, though inwardly he shared the sentiment. Debt was a killer, but so were most things in this line of work. They reached the chamber, a cavernous expanse that seemed to breathe with the weight of ages. At its center, an artifact pulsed with an otherworldly glow like a beacon, or a death trap depending on your outlook. "Feels like the universe's biggest bug zapper," Kira observed, eyeing the artifact with a mix of wonder and suspicion. "We're the bugs, right?" "Pretty much," Voss agreed. "But if this thing's what we think it is, it could change everything." Sasha moved closer, her scanner in hand. "It's emitting some kind of signal stronger than anything we've seen. And get this, it's human, or at least it resonates like human consciousness." Voss blinked, trying to wrap his mind around the revelation. "Human consciousness." "As in us, more like a recording," Sasha explained, her voice tinged with awe and disbelief. "A snapshot of a human thought process preserved and amplified by whatever magic or tech these ruins have. So what you're saying is we're not the first to leave our brains lying around the universe," Marcus quipped. "Charming." Kira frowned, her brow furrowing as she stared at the artifact. "But why? Why would anyone do that?" "Maybe as a message," Voss suggested, Or a warning, or both, Sasha added. The Zalker might have stumbled on it too, could explain why they are interested in us now. As if summoned by their musings, the Zalker appeared, materializing like shadows that had decided to join the party. Their forms shimmered, ethereal yet grounded, a contradiction that seemed to fit the moment perfectly. Voss took a step forward, heart pounding with a mix of fear and determination. "We've got your attention now, haven't we?" The Zalker's leader, a being with a presence that defied simple descriptors, inclined its head. "Indeed, human, you have discovered the heart of the Labyrinth. It is a relic of your kind, a testament to your perseverance." "Testament, huh?" Marcus said, crossing his arms. "More like a cosmic paper trail." The Zalker leader seemed unbothered by the sarcasm, its voice echoing like 1,000 whispers. "Your species is resilient, adaptable. It is time we acknowledge what you call a soul." "Finally," Kira muttered, "some respect." Voss felt a surge of vindication, though he kept his expression guarded. "So, what does this mean? Are we friends now, or just less likely to shoot at each other?" The Zalker's gaze intensified, as if probing the very fabric of Voss's being. "Consider it an understanding. We will not hinder your exploration, nor will we interfere with your endeavors. But heed this, human. The multiverse is vast and unyielding." "Tread carefully." "Got it," Voss said, feeling a bit like a kid getting a lecture from the universe's strictest teacher. "We won't outstay our welcome." With a final flicker of acknowledgement, the Zalker faded, leaving behind an absence that was more felt than seen. "Well, that was something," Sasha remarked, her voice tinged with relief. "Guess we should grab this thing and head back." "Yeah," Voss agreed, relaxing his grip on his blaster. "Let's snag it and skedaddle before they change their minds." They approached the artifact, its surface smooth and cool, almost inviting. Voss reached out, feeling the hum of energy thrumming beneath his fingertips. "Feels like holding a heartbeat," he murmured, his cynicism momentarily eclipsed by wonder. Sasha nodded, eyes wide with the magnitude of their discovery. Its history and potential, all bundled up in one neat package. Marcus grinned, the kind of grin that was more about relief than joy. "And here I thought we were just going to get flattened again." Kira chuckled, her voice light. "Guess the universe decided to throw us a bone." For once, artifact in hand, they made their way back through the ruins, the ship a beacon of familiarity amid the chaos. As they boarded, the doors sealing with a satisfying hiss, Voss couldn't help but feel they were leaving behind more than just a mystery. "All right, people," he said, his voice carrying the weight of their strange victory. "Let's plot a course for home. We've got a story to tell and maybe a paycheck waiting." Kira fired up the engines, the ship rumbling with a newfound vigor. "Ready when you are, Captain." Marcus settled into his seat, the tension in his shoulders easing. "Think we'll get a hero's welcome, or just a you didn't die good job?" "I'll take either," Voss admitted, a grin tugging at his lips. "As long as it comes with a hot meal and a cold drink." The ship lifted off, leaving the ruins and the labyrinth's secrets behind. As they soared through the void, Voss felt a sense of completion, a resolution that was more about the journey than the destination. "Here's to surviving," Sasha said, raising an imaginary glass. "And to whatever comes next," Kira added, her voice steady and sure. Voss nodded, his gaze fixed on the stars. "To the future, then, whatever it holds." As the ship sailed onward, he couldn't shake the feeling that they'd opened a door to something bigger, something that would have repercussions far beyond their little corner of the cosmos. But for now, they were together, alive, and, perhaps most importantly, still snarky as hell. And that, as far as Voss was concerned, was the best kind of victory. The ship's bridge was quieter than usual, the kind of quiet that comes after the storm when everyone's trying to remember if they left the iron on. Voss was staring at the holographic display, the galaxy stardust twinkling like a million tiny promises that probably weren't worth the space they are floating in. "So," Sasha said, breaking the silence like a bull in a china shop, "anyone else feel like we just pulled off the universe's biggest con job?" Marcus snorted, leaning back in his seat with a practiced ease that suggested he was born to do precisely nothing. If by con job you mean miracle of not getting vaporized or worse, then yeah, I'm feeling pretty good about our odds. Don't get too comfy, Kira chimed in, fiddling with her toolkit, which was about as comforting as a hand grenade in a nursery. We've still got to figure out what to do with this thing. She nodded towards the artifact, which sat in the center of the room, glowing like a smug neon sign. Voss scratched his chin, his stubble rasping like sandpaper on metal. Well, at least we've got the Zalker waving the white flag, or whatever it is they wave when they decide not to turn us into vapor. That's a start. Yeah, Sasha said dryly, because nothing says progress like not being obliterated by an alien race with a superiority complex. Marcus chuckled. Hey, at least they're not trying to turn us into a cosmic footnote. Speaking of notes, Voss interjected, we should probably figure out how to report this without sounding like we've completely lost our marbles. Kira grinned, a mischievous glint in her eye. Why not just tell them the truth? We found a brain in a box, made friends with some space ghosts, and now everyone wants to sing Kumbaya. Sure, and we can end with and they all lived happily ever after. Marcus rolled his eyes. Except we all know how that usually goes in flames. Speaking of flames, Sasha interrupted, turning her attention to Voss. What's our next move, fearless leader? Or are we just winging it like usual? Voss sighed, the weight of command settling back on his shoulders like an ill-fitting jacket. First, we get this artifact back to a place where it can't accidentally blow a hole in reality. Then we figure out how to use it to our advantage. Advantage? Marcus asked, raising an eyebrow. You're thinking of using it like a bargaining chip. Voss gave a half-shrug, half-nod. Something like that. If humanity's got a seat at the table now, might as well make sure we're not sitting on a rickety stool. Kira crossed her arms, suspicion flickering across her face like a shadow. And you're sure the Zalker won't change their minds and decide we're better as cosmic dust? Not sure of anything, Voss admitted. But if they wanted us dead, they had plenty of chances. Well, Sasha said, leaning back, here's hoping they stick to their newfound respect for the human soul, or whatever it is they think we have. The ship hummed as they glided through the void, a gentle reminder that despite everything, they were still moving forward. The stars were a blur outside the viewport, a reminder of the vastness and indifference of the universe. It was a place where you could be both everything and nothing at once. As they drifted in silence, a feeling of camaraderie settled over them, the kind that only comes when you face down the end of everything and come out the other side with all your body parts attached. Here's to not dying, Marcus said, raising an imaginary glass. And to hoping that artifact isn't the universe's biggest Trojan horse, Sasha added. Kira shook her head but joined in. And to not getting shafted in whatever cosmic poker game we're about to play. Voss raised his imaginary glass last, a wry smile on his lips. To us. Because if there's one thing I've learned, it's that humanity's greatest strength is not knowing when to quit. They clinked their imaginary glasses together, a toast to the unknown, the unknowable, and the undeniable fact that they'd somehow managed to scrape together another day in this cold, indifferent universe. As conversations petered out, Voss leaned back in his chair, staring at the artifact. It was both a promise and a threat, a reminder that even in a universe determined to squash you like a bug, there were still mysteries worth unraveling. What do you think it really is? Marcus asked, breaking the silence once more. Voss shrugged, still studying the artifact. A reminder, maybe. That for all our faults, humans can still surprise the universe and themselves. And here I thought we'd finally outgrown happy endings, Sasha mused, her voice laced with irony. Happy? Kira asked, raising an eyebrow. More like not entirely catastrophic. Marcus laughed, the sound a relief in the tense air. Well, whatever it is, it's yours now. A souvenir from our little jaunt through the cosmic horror show. Voss nodded, feeling the weight of the artifact's promise, and its threat settle comfortably beside him. Yeah, and a reminder that when the chips are down, Humans are still some of the most stubborn bastards in the multiverse. The ship's engines hummed steadily beneath them, a lullaby of progress and potential. Whatever lay ahead, alliances, discoveries, maybe even another chance to cheat death, the crew faced it together, with sarcasm and snark as their weapons of choice. And that, Voss thought, as the ship sailed onward, was a victory in itself. A testament to the human spirit, or whatever you call the ability to laugh in the face of certain doom and keep moving forward. As the stars streaked by, the crew settled into a comfortable silence, punctuated only by the occasional beep of the ship systems. They had a long journey ahead, and plenty of time to figure out what it all meant. For now, though, they were alive together, and, against all odds, looking forward to whatever came next. Because if there's one thing humans are good at, it's turning the end of the world into just another adventure.